watch it work. Seeds of joy in every row. Come on down, we'll show you how what's fresh and green is growing now. At Bob's Market, we've got it all, from garden dreams to greenhouse halls. Catch the buzz, catch the show, where the best of the season grows. Tomatoes ripe, peppers bright, tips for keeping blooms in sight. Let's make your backyard glow. Tools and plants, advice for free. Bob's is where you want to be. At Bob's Market, we've got it all, from garden dreams to greenhouse halls. Catch the buzz, catch the show, where the best of the season grows.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Bob's Live. Normally we're live every Thursday at 2 p.m. You might notice that it's 3 p.m. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties, mainly to do with the drawing we're going to be doing here in a little bit. You see, we had a huge response to the drawing. Normally whenever we do an online drawing, I just print off the spreadsheet and then take a pair of scissors and, like, on my lunch break, I sit down and just cut out the entries and then stick them all in a cup, and then I just stick my hand in and do the drawing. We had 1,385 entries. That's a little bit more than I can set and cut apart in a lunch break. So I had to figure out a way to fairly do it. So we're going to employ a little bit of AI in our selection process this time. You'll see that a little bit later in this episode. So we're going to get to the drawing here in just a little bit. But yeah, to make it fair, I've got the spreadsheet pulled up on a screen share along with the AI that we're going to be using. And then I'm going to type the prompt in right there on the screen and say, hey, pick a random number between this and this. It should spit out a random number. And then we're going to scroll down through the spreadsheet together to get to that number. That person will be the winner. And what I've done, so all that we're seeing is the people's names and not any other identifying information, is I just copied the names over. And then what I'll do later after the show is I'll pull up the spreadsheet that has the other contact information. I'll go back and contact the winner. So that's how we'll do it. That's how it'll work. So, moving along, it's, a few days after Mother's Day. I thought it would be great to head out to our market right down here at Mason and share some tips on how to care for the plants that a lot of you just purchased at our Mother's Day weekend sale. So here are some quick tips on how to care for hanging baskets and pots. Okay, we just finished up Mother's Day weekend, and I want to thank all of you that came out. And if you took home a hanging basket or a potted plant, you might be asking yourself, what do I need to do to take care of it now? And I want to share some tips today. And first off is feeding it. And a good question is, what do I need to feed it? And what we feed our hanging baskets pots and plants here at Bob's is Jack's Classic. It's what we use in the greenhouse, and it's what we carry here in our stores. So some great options if you have, say, a fern basket. Something we recommend is Jack's Classic Coat Time Release Fertilizer. You can sprinkle some in the top, and it'll gradually release throughout the summer every time you water. If you have a petunia basket, or say a calibrachoa basket, a great option is petunia feed. And for a general flower basket, say begonias or anything like that, lantana, we have just Blossom Booster for just a general flowering basket. And then we also have an all-purpose fertilizer. This is great for vegetables, flowers, really, like it says, all-purpose. And then we have a bunch of different sizes to choose from. I'm picking up the little 8-ounce containers. Going down to the next level below here, we have 1.5 pound containers. We also have 4 pound buckets. And you can even go with, these are 10 pound bags. So you really want to stock up. So those are all great options. They're water soluble, so they come with a little measuring spoon. Measure it out into your watering can based off the instructions on the packaging. Mix it in with your water, and then just water your plants. It's that easy. Here at the market, they're watering right now, and this clicking sound is what we call a dosatron. So it's actually pulling in a measured amount of concentrated fertilizer into the irrigation water. So every time we water, we're fertilizing our plants here at the market. The next important question is, how often do I need to water my pot or my basket? And that's kind of a loaded question, because it's one of those, well, it depends things. And it depends on a lot of factors. One is the size of the pot or the basket. One is whether it's in shade or sun. That affects how quickly water evaporates out of it. And the other is how hot or cold it is outside. Today it's unseasonably cold out. Like, it is downright chilly outside right now. An easy way to tell with a hanging basket is just to give it a lift and see how heavy it is. If you do it enough times, you can start to tell by weight. Like lifting this one, it's a nice weight right now. I can tell that it's not overly heavy, so it's not really soaked and too wet. It's also not too light, so I know that it's kind of just right. We also have drip irrigation for this basket. So we can turn on the drip irrigation and water it for a timed amount, and we know that it gets just the right amount of water. In the summertime, once things start warming up, we know that the baskets are going to need more water. And also, once you get into summertime, the plants will get bigger. That's going to start drawing more water out of the root ball every day. And you're going to get to a point where the baskets are going to need watering every single day. So you have to kind of keep that in mind as you get further along into the summertime. Now, if you have a huge planted container, you can get by with watering it a few times a week. So at my house, going into my house at my front door, it's like an old-timey wash basin that I plant. And I can get by with watering it a couple times a week because it's on the north-facing side of my house. It's in a shaded area, and it has a large fruit ball that retains moisture. So you have to take all of those things into consideration when it comes to watering. Those are some helpful tips to help you keep growing after Mother's Day. And for more helpful gardening tips every week, I recommend checking out the Keep Growing podcast, our weekly podcast every Saturday morning during the gardening season. It comes out at 8 a.m. every Saturday and follows along with our almanac, Uncle Jim's Almanac, over at our website. And you can find it at bobsmarket.com, and it's available on Spotify and all the major podcast platforms. And again, that's the Keep Growing podcast. So, yeah, those are some helpful tips. Kind of the quick, kind of top level tips. It gets much more complicated beyond that. You can get down into the nitty gritty of stuff, especially when you get down into individual plant species. And that's something that we're going to dig into this summer, kind of pun intended, is looking at sort of individual plant species and varieties and going a little bit more deeply. But I did mention our podcast there. I've got some commitments this weekend, so I'm actually going to be recording the next episode of the podcast tonight, which I usually record it on Friday nights, so it goes out on Saturday morning. It'll still be going out on Saturday morning. I'm just going to be recording it a night early. Yeah, I recommend checking out our podcast. So if you live right here in the Mid-Ohio Valley, sort of from Marietta down to, say, Huntington, Ashland, that area, is very topical for you guys. So sort of that region. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the gift card drawing. Like I said, we had 1,385 entries. And that's after I went through. I did go in and weed out the duplicates. So we did have some people that didn't follow the rules and they entered more than once. So I did run a little tool that goes in and it compares the name and address. So, some names are common, like John Smith. You might have more than one John Smith, so it looks at the name and compares it with the address. So, I didn't want to accidentally take out a duplicate that really wasn't a duplicate. But yeah, so we've gone through, filtered out any duplicates that might have been intentional, and that's what we're left with. So now let's get to the drawing, and for me to do this I'm going to look like I'm crazy because I've got to look up at the ceiling, because here in front of me at my computer station, my actual day job here at Bob's is I am the IT manager, so I have 5 computer monitors here before me, and I have this set up on one monitor that I kind of use for monitoring stuff kind of off that I don't have to pay attention to that often, but it is up sort of over my head. So let me pull up that monitor, and I have blacked out some information that you don't need to see, but I have to now kind of fish my mouse up to that screen. There we go. Now we're seeing the mouse up there. And we need to type our prompt in. So, give me a random number between 1 and 1,385. And that gives us everybody. And it gave us 394 is the number that it came up with. So let's now scroll down to 394. And you might see your name fly by. Let's see, 394. Hopefully I don't scroll past it. Oh, I did. Let's see, 394. So Stacy Everson is our winner. Stacy Everson. And before I think about it, I'm going to grab a post-it note. Hopefully that's not invisible on the green screen. Let me hold it in front of my shirt. I'm going to grab a post-it note and write her name down. Make sure I get the spelling right in case there's a slightly different spelling somewhere in the list. I know what I'll do. Stacy Everson. I'll put number 394. That way I know the line that it is in the spreadsheet. Okay, so Stacy, congratulations. You are our $100 gift card winner. Okay, that worked better than I thought it would. All right. And I didn't lose my mouse amongst all my monitors, which usually happens. So now let's move along and take a look at the weather, which today it is crazy. I was down there at the market this morning recording that video, and I about froze to death. And I just refreshed this screen right before I went live, and my thermometer over on the wall is saying 61, but it is saying that it is 57 degrees outside right now. And the weather service that I use for our website is called weather.io. And it's always a little bit pessimistic as far as like the rain forecast and the sun versus cloud. I usually use AccuWeather on my phone, and I think it tends to be a little bit more accurate. Like it has a little bit more sunny disposition. But it's saying that the forecast is going to be a little bit more sunny. But this is over on our website, so if you ever want to check the local weather, you can head over, and under the More drop-down menu, there's a section there called Weather Center, and it pulls up this page, and we've got a little weather widget there, the frost countdown. So in the wintertime, it is a countdown to the last frost, so which was like last week. Which, you know, with the weather we've had this spring, it's been kind of a maybe. And then right now, this first frost countdown is shooting for, you know, sort of mid-October. So we've got about 152 days-ish left of the gardening season. And then it updates with the radar image from NOAA, And then also it pulls in the Weather Alerts API for anywhere within a 50-mile radius of our headquarters here in Mason, West Virginia. So if there's any active weather alerts in the area, it'll pull those up and show them there also. And then it also has the river level for the Ohio River in our area. So kind of a one-stop shop for all of the local weather data. But yeah, we've got a cold snap right now, but then moving into next week, oh my land, look at that. Monday and Tuesday, we are looking at temperatures in the 90s. I saw that and I was like, I can't believe that. So I pulled up AccuWeather, and yeah, temperatures in the 90s next week. And wow. Okay. The last thing that I want to share this week on our episode of Bob's Live, Kenny Riffle says, what will you do for Father's Day? When is Father's Day? That's coming up. Is it in June? I don't have a June calendar in front of me. I know we have Memorial Day coming up, which I think we have a Memorial Day sale. I'm not sure. Usually we do. And I think we'll have a sale usually for Father's Day. Yep. But yeah, the get sidetracked thinking about something there. I'll have to look and see what my schedule is for Father's Day. But anyhow, the last thing that I wanted to cover today is actually looking way ahead into the future to fall. Because believe it or not, this week, we're not even a week out from Mother's Day. We actually started growing a fall crop this week. So we're already starting on fall. So let's head back out to the greenhouse and check in on a fall crop. All right, so here we are, not even a week out from Mother's Day weekend. And right here behind me, we have the first mums of this year's fall mum crop. So they just came in as unrooted cuttings and were stuck this week. And these are going to become big 14-inch mixed color baskets and pots. So there's some in here that are going to be like hanging baskets, and then some of them are going to be big 14-inch pots. So let's take a closer look at them. They were just stuck, so some of them are still kind of limp. But as they get watered and they start to take root, they'll kind of stand back up and kind of perk back up. So, for example, these are going to go into a 9-inch pot. They're very early, and it's a mum variety called Cheer, and the color's red. And then we have some little tracking information over here. So they were stuck in week 20, and the tray size is a 104. So I was just down there at that very far end of the batch. Down here at this end, we've got the 14-inch stuff. I scooted this tray out. So on this one, you can see it says 14-inch tricolor mid, so it's mid-season. mum, and then the variety or series is Axios, color orange, and then it's also stuck in week 20. So the tricolor, where it's like Axios, and then there's like 3 colors in that tricolor mix. So that's the orange, and then there's 2 other colors here that would go in with that. So that way, those 3 colors will get transplanted into one pot, and you get like a 3-color mix in one 14-inch pot. And I'll see if I can find a photo and put that right here in the video. So yeah, last few weeks have been pretty busy here at Bob's, as we've been preparing for Mother's Day, and definitely a busy weekend, and it never stops, no rest. So we're already starting on the next season. And then here in June, we'll have poinsettia cuttings start showing up. So we'll already start working on Christmas in June. And of course, down here, the field house still has quite a bit of collar, and we still have quite a few baskets on the way. We've got a bunch here on the floor that are still growing out for later this summer. And up overhead here, the ceiling is full of baskets. And then there's a row of ferns over here in the next greenhouse over. And there's stuff on the floor over here as well. So, plenty still to go through. All right. Well, that is all that I have for this week's episode of Bob's Live. And yeah, once again, usually every week at 2 p.m. we go live. So this week, a little bit of a delay as I worked out some technical issues. But yeah, usually I try to work in a couple like pre-recorded segments like you saw today. So usually it's me out in my garden or my flower beds working on some stuff, or some behind the scenes stuff of what's happening out in the greenhouse, because we always have stuff happening out in the greenhouse, and usually it kind of gives you a glimpse behind the scenes. So things like the mums. It takes a long time to grow chrysanthemums. They come in as little tiny unrooted cuttings that we stick into soil, grow the roots on them, and then they grow out a little bit. We have to trim them, and that causes them then to branch out, and that's how you get a nice full round mum by fall. So yeah, there's a lot of labor involved with that. And so we'll kind of follow that throughout the summer. And then I'm looking, yeah, we have an episode of Bob's Live this coming week. The week after, I will be out of town, so we won't have an episode that week. But yeah. So until next time, keep growing.
At Bob's Market, we've got it all, from garden dreams to greenhouse hauls. Catch the buzz, catch the show, where the best of the season grows.